So sorry I'm late today. I had something going on. Today we will be finishing about our circuits, which is the ending of chapter 18. Let me pin myself. I'm already recording. Okay, so what we have learned about resistors, capacitors, about parallel, about series, is to help us build up knowledge to this part lah, this subtopic, which is, let me find it. Where is it? Okay, it's Kirchhoff's rule. Okay, Kirchhoff's rule. Okay, so previously we talked about resistors, equivalent resistors, and then we talked about equivalent capacitors, and the circuits that we saw were like this. They were like this, which means that they can be easily like added together in parallel. They can be easily added together in series, and eventually you got everything compressed into one resistor or one capacitance. But for Kirchhoff's rule, sometimes circuits cannot be simplified into equivalent resistors or into equivalent capacitance because you have like multiple batteries in the circuit. So when that happens, you can only like combine. You can't combine this guy with this guy because there's a battery over here. You can't combine this guy with this guy because there's a battery over there. So when you have multiple batteries in the circuit, it's kind of hard to find the equivalent resistance. And when it's hard to find the equivalent resistance, you can't find the total current, you can't find the total resistance. Okay, so Kirchhoff's rule helps us to solve for circuits that are slightly harder than the one that we have seen so far. Okay, for example, this guy. So we have two rules. Under the Kirchhoff's rule, we have two rules. The first one is called the junction rule, and the second one is called the loop rule. Okay, so the junction rule talks about the current. Okay. Sekejap, I don't know why he's making that noise. Sekejap. Okay. So we have two rules, the junction and the loop rule. The junction rule refers to the current, whereas the loop rule, we are talking about voltages. Okay. So this guy is your I, this guy is your V. Okay. So the junction rule says that the sum of the currents at any junction must be zero. Okay, so sum of I is equal to 0 for the junction rule, and the sum of potential differences across the elements around any closed circuit must be 0. So here it's saying sum of V is equal to 0. Okay, so this is all based on the statement of conservation of charge and the statement of conservation of energy. We know this, it's just conservation, which means that you can't create or destroy. It has to be the same from the beginning to the end. Okay. Okay, let's look at this circuit. Sekejap, for the next one ada tak? Okay. Kita go to the next one je lah. Sama je. Or is it? Okay. Sekejap, saya tengok mana lagi saya nak cerita for you guys to understand. Let's go with this one first lah. Okay, so here for the junction rule, oopsie. For the junction rule, gendutnya benda ni. Dah keluar suara makcik-makcik saya. Okay. Okay, so here, this is our junction rule. What does it mean? What does it mean by junction rule? When we have a junction ni macam simpang lah kan, junction. So I have a junction here, I have a junction here, Where else? Let's just talk about three junction lah. Kalau tak ada junction, you could also say, is this a junction? I don't know. I don't think it's a junction lah. Okay, so the junction we have is here and here. And remember, I told you the current flows from positive battery, right? From the positive side of the battery. So if I were to draw I would draw it like this. I1, let's say this is epsilon 1. Sorry, this is battery number 1. This is battery number 2. That's a resistor. Sorry. So this is battery number 2. This is I2. And then, what is this? This is battery number 3. And it flows like this, right? Because I told you it starts from the positive to the negative. And then this, I will be labeling this as I3. Okay, so here I have two junctions. Let me talk about the junction on the top here. Okay, so junction, this is our junction. I2 flows out from the junction. I2 flows out from the junction. I1, if I were to like map it out to this junction, it is flowing out of the junction. Whereas I3, it is going into the junction. Okay, so I2 dia keluar, I1 keluar, I3 is going into the junction, going into this dot lah basically, or we call it the junction. So the junction rule says your sum must be equal to 0. What goes in must come out. What goes in must come out. Okay, so from this, we can say that I3 goes in, right? So it's a positive. I2 goes out. I1 goes out. And the sum of this is equal to a 0. Okay, this is your sum. This is the sum that we are talking about just now. Okay, so what goes in must come out. If I were to rearrange this equation, I can say I3 is equal to I2 plus I1. Because I3 masuk, yang keluar dipecahkan kepada I1 and I2. So we can say that I3 is the total. We don't know yet, but this is our equation. Okay, so what comes in must go out. If the current goes into the junction, it is a positive. If it goes out of the junction, it is a negative. Okay, there's another question. This is the question that I made up in my head. Doctor, what if I draw the current like this? I3. Boleh tak? The answer is yes, you can. You can draw the current the other way. It doesn't matter actually, but if you change I3 to become the opposite side, your equation also changes. So let's change that. Kita buang ni. Oopsie. Okay, so if I3 is going out, semua going out, right? Boleh. I just need to alter my equation. Okay, so now my equation becomes, excuse me, minus I1 minus I2, right? Minus I2, I'm recording, right? Okay, minus I3 equals to a 0 because everything is going out. Now, I told you what goes in must come out, right? So when I try to solve this, instead of getting all currents positive, bear with me first. Instead of getting the answer as I1 equals to 1 milliampere, I2 equals to 2 milliampere, and I3 is 4 milliampere, I will get one of this as negative sign. Let's say I get I3 as a negative. What does the negative mean? It means that, okay, you labeled your I3 going down, but as you can see here, it's a negative, which means that the actual direction of the current is this way. Actual I3. It is based on your answer. If you get a negative, maksudnya whatever that you labeled in your circuit, terbalik lah. But you will still get the right answer. So it doesn't matter how you label the current, your answer tells you the correct direction of the current. If it's positive, then it will be the same as what you draw in the circuit. If it is a negative, it's the opposite direction. Okay, so that was, nanti kita akan tengok, we will do an example, so don't worry about that so much. So now we talked about junction rule already. What goes in must come out. The sum is equal to a 0. What about V? The sum of V must be equal to 0, or the sum of potential difference must be equal to 0. So this is called the loop rule. Okay, so here you can see there's a loop that we draw. Okay, abaikan dulu benda Allah ni. Hello, tadi nak buang rupanya. Okay, it's together with the figure. Oopsie. Okay, so here I have a circuit. I have a battery here. It's positive 12. My current, assuming that my current flows from here to here. Okay, my I1. So here we have like only a single current flowing, right? Because there's only one loop here. Does it divide into a junction? No, there's no junction here that I can see. So there's only one current, one battery. We have two resistors. Now the loop rule can be applied even though the circuit is like super simple like this one. And it can also be applied for a very complicated circuit. So let's take a look at this one. So I have current, sorry, I have a voltage, and then I want to draw my loop. This loop is not given. I want to draw my loop, what is this? Clockwise, right? Clockwise. So I draw my loop like this. Boleh tak saya nak buat anti-clockwise? Jawapannya yes, you can. You can have your loop clockwise. Okay, what do you do with this loop, right? Okay, sabar baca. Okay, so now that I've drawn my loop, right? I should follow my loop. Okay, so I should follow my loop. So my loop goes from here to here. So if I were to extend it, okay, this is me. Okay, so I am walking around this circuit and I see, the first thing that I see is the negative voltage. So my equation should start minus 12 volt. So that's my first term in my equation. Let me put it over here. Minus 12 volt. Okay, and then I walk, and I see 5 ohms, right? 5 ohms, the current that is flowing through 5 ohms, I labeled it I1. So I1 is also flowing through 5 ohms. So my I1 is the same, is moving together with me, right? I am walking this way. The I1 is also the same way. So we are walking together, me and the current walking together. So we are together positive. So I1 times with 5 ohm. Okay, it's a positive because the current is in the same direction as my loop, or I am walking together in the same direction as the I1. Okay, so loop ni anggap kita berjalan lah across the circuit. Basically, we are like trying to figure out how the circuit works. And then I move along. After the 5 ohms, I meet 1 ohm, right? I meet 1 ohm. What is the current flowing through 1 ohm resistor? It is the same current, which is I1. And I1 is still in the same direction as my loop, or the same direction as my direction lah. So positive I1, 1 ohm. Okay, and then I go this way pula, and then there's nothing that I meet, and I come back to the 12 volts. So I already put into my equation, so it's done. So this is equal to 0. Okay, so the loop rule tells you that the sum of V is equal to a 0. This is this is V, this is IR. IR is also a V. This is also IR, which is a V. So these are actually the sum of voltages in your circuit. Okay?
Doctor?
Yep.
I have a question. Why is the 12 volt in negative?
Oh, because like I said, dia punya convention macam tu macam when you do a loop, when you are walking across the loop this way, you will see the negative sign first. If my battery was like this and I'm walking this way, I will see the positive side first. So my equation will become positive 12. Dia memang macam tu, dia ada rule dia. So kita follow je lah rule dia because it works. Okay? So dia tak ada explanation lah sebenarnya. Okay? Alright. So I have, this is my equation for this loop. So can we solve it? Let's try to solve it. This is a simple equation. So this is I1 5 ohm plus 6 ohm. This is going to be I1 6 ohm. And I'm going to bring the 12 volt to the other side. So this becomes 12 volts. So I1 is basically 2 ampere. Okay, so this, we got it. It's an easy circuit anyways. Right. Okay, so tadi Umar tanya, Umar kot kan? Umar tanya kenapa bila kita use the loop rule, we see the battery as a negative. It depends on if you are moving from the negative to the positive, or if your loop is this way, you will see the positive side first. So your equation becomes positive. And it is based on this lah. This is the rule lah basically. So for resistors, positive IR, your equation becomes positive I times ohm times the resistor when your loop is the same direction as the current. We saw that, right? Our current was this way. We are also walking this way. Our loop was also this way. So positive. Kalau if your loop is if your loop is opposite, maksudnya anti-clockwise, then your equation will become different. Okay, so let's try that. What if your loop is anti-clockwise, right? Okay, what if your loop is anti-clockwise? Let me duplicate this. Okay. Okay, so I told you, what if our loop is anti-clockwise? Because I told you the loop depends on you, right? Ni clockwise lagi. Silap. So it should be this way. Okay. Mak buruknya. Tapi tak apa. Korang dah biasa dah tengok lukisan buruk-buruk ni. Okay, so this is my anti-clockwise loop. Okay, it depends on you. You want to make clockwise, boleh. You want to make anti-clockwise, boleh. But your equation will be different. Okay, and then what about my I? My I want to still label it this way. So this is my I1. Okay, so how should my equation change? So this is me walking across the loop. So like that. This is the direction. I see the positive side of the battery first. So it's a positive 12 volt. And then jalan lagi, jalan lagi, jalan lagi. So I see the 1 ohm. I see the 1 ohm. The 1 ohm has a I that is going this way. This is the I going this way. So my loop is the opposite direction as my I. So negative IR. Negative I1, 1 ohm. Okay, and then I walking. Okay, bertemu dengan 5 ohm. I1 is opposite direction. So negative 5 ohm. Okay, walking. Okay, habis dah. So it's equal to 0. So compared to the previous equation, this is a positive 12 volt minus, right? Compared to our previous equation, this was a minus 12 volt, positive I, 5 ohm, positive I1, 1 ohm. So the signs change depending on your direction of loop. But the answer will still be the same. Jawapan, if your I1 is supposed to be 1 milliampere, then your answer will still be 1 milliampere, even though your loop changed direction. Okay, so that's the beauty of Kirchhoff's rule lah. Okay, even though you like mess up the direction, not gonna mess up, you like have different directions of loop, different directions of current, as long as you do the math right, you will get the right answer. Okay. Okay, so going back to this table, same direction as current, you will get a positive IR. Opposite direction with current, you will get a minus IR. If you see from positive terminal to negative, which means that your loop goes this way, you are here, you see the positive side first, your V is positive. If your loop is this way, this is you see the negative side first, then your voltage becomes a negative in your equation. Remember, your equation always equals to 0. Always. So this is your 0, this is your 0. Okay, this is the sum of volt, this is the sum of I's. This is your junction rule. This is your loop rule. Okay. Before that, let me make a new slide. Okay, so let's talk about Kirchhoff's rule briefly. What have we learned? Okay, so we know that we have one is called the loop rule. Sorry, let's start with junction. Okay, junction. Sorry, kita mengeluh pula. Saya tengah tak sihat ni. Junction rule, loop rule. Saya bukan mengeluh kat korang saya mengeluh dengan diri sendiri. Okay, so junction rule talks about sum of I, and then loop rule talks about the sum of V's. And then junction refers to this guy, whatever your I is. So we talk about the junction here. Okay, simpang tiga lah basically. Loop rule, we talk about the clockwise or the anti-clockwise, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is anti-clockwise, this is clockwise. Doesn't matter, you can do either one. Okay, but I like to go for clockwise always because saya pening-pening kepala dengan direction. Okay, so remember when you see a positive side of the battery first, let me do it like this. Okay, so ni duduk clockwise. Tengok betul tak saya cakap, saya confuse benda ni. Sorry, this is clockwise. Anti-clockwise terbalik. So let me use what color? Biru lah. So clockwise, this way. Okay, so anti-clockwise is this way, clockwise is this way. So if my loop is clockwise, I will see the negative side first. So this becomes negative V. If I use my anti-clockwise loop, I will see the positive side. This becomes positive V. Okay. Whereas for the junction rule, what goes in becomes a positive, what goes out becomes a negative. Okay, so here, 1, I2, I3. So this becomes I1 positive minus I2 positive I3, or everything equals to a 0. Okay. Sounds easy, right? You just have to remember the rules. Okay, so let's do an example. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Okay, so here, dia kasih example, junction A. So this is our point A. In point A, I2 goes into the junction, I1 goes into the junction, I3 goes out of the junction. So here I can predict I1 positive, I2 positive, I3 is negative. So look at this equation, I1 is positive, I2 is positive, I3 is negative, and it is equal to a 0. So junction rule is easy lah. Okay, so yang loop rule ni selalu orang termess up sikit sebab dia macam complicated sikit. So here, the loop is clockwise, right? Clockwise. So here, let's go for the first loop. This is the second loop. Dua-dua clockwise. Sebab diorang tak nak, diorang nak bagi senang nak tengok kot, saya rasa. Okay, so the clockwise loop sees the negative sign first. Dia nampak negative sign dulu. So this equation becomes negative V2. And then it sees R2. R2, what current is flowing through R2? It is I2. Sini kan, nampak kan kat situ. So because the loop is in the same direction as I2, this equation should be a positive IR equation. Positive I2 times R2. So this is your equation. Positive I2 times R2. Okay. Okay, and then I move along. Move along. Tak jumpa apa-apa lagi. Okay, jumpa I3. R3. Saya say I3. I see R3, resistor number 3. And R3, the current flowing through it is I3, and we are going together in the same direction. So seronok lah jalan sama-sama. So this becomes a positive IR. Ya Allah, banyak sangat saya punya message ni. Positive IR, I3 times R3. Did I pronounce that right? I3 times R3. Okay, so it's a positive, eh? So minus V2, positive I2 R2, positive I3 R3 equals to a 0. Because when I move along this loop, that's it. I meet the voltage again. So dah habis lah. So equals to 0. And then loop number 2. Okay, padam. So loop number 2 is the downward loop. The loop down here. Okay, so let's start from here. So this is my loop. I see the positive V2 first. So the positive V2 first. And then, kejap eh. What is going on? Oh, korang boleh baca ke ni? Mute all this. This mute always. Okay. Okay, so I meet the V2. I told you I'm meeting the positive terminal of the V2 first, and then as I move along the loop, I see the negative side of V1. So it's a negative V1 lah. Negative V1. I'm sorry, I'm just like macam tu je kan. Macam tua. Okay, so moving on. So I meet R1. R1, the current flowing through R1 is I1. How do I know this? I determined that I1 was over here. So basically I1 is flowing through the entire line, right? So I1 is flowing through R1 in the same direction as my loop. So yay is a positive, right? Yep, it's a positive. So positive positive I1, R1. So this is what we got over here. And then I think you can guess it already. I move along and I see R2 and R2 punya current flowing is I2. I2 terbalik dengan loop. So it's a negative. Okay, so this is your negative. Okay, so and then everything is equal to a 0 once you complete the loop. So it's pretty easy as long as you remember the rules. Okay, so what do we do with these equations? We use it to solve for I1, I2, and I3. Dia tak tunjuk.
Betul.
Yep.
Saya tak faham yang junction tu kenapa I3 dia negatif.
Sebab I3 keluar daripada A.
Oh,
Saya cakap
kita
masuk
dekat dot.
positif, keluar negatif.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? No questions? Okay. I'm going to continue. So the last part of the Kirchhoff's rule is actually using this equation to solve for I1, I2, and I3. I would just use the calculator lah. Okay. So how do we use the calculator? I mean, you can solve it manually, and that's great, but I don't want to do math. So what do we do to solve using calculator? Okay, so this is our equation, right? Okay, first of all, what I need to do is I need to rearrange this into a matrix. So I1, I2, and I3. So this is my I1, I2, and then I3. And this will be the voltage, okay? So the first equation, from the first equation, I can say I1 is 1, I2 is 1, positive 1, I3 is negative 1. What is the voltage? There's no voltage over here. It is equal to a 0. Okay, sure, excuse me. And then equation number 2, which is from loop 1, from loop 1. Remember, we are talking about I1, I2, and I3 first. So I1 is not here, so I will put a 0 over here. My I2 is R2, positive sign. So R2. And then my R3 is, sorry, I3 is R3, positive sign. So it's a positive, 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 positive. What about the voltage? The voltage, if I move it to the other side, it will become positive V2. So this becomes positive V2. Okay. I know I told you like equate your equations to zero, equate your equations to zero, but to make it into a matrix, your matrix can only fit in I1, I2, and I3. So everything else must go to the other side. So this guy is not I1, it's not I2, it's not I3, so you need to go to the other side. Okay, macam dia kena sedar diri lah. So V2, you move to the other side. And then we go to the third equation. Your I1 is R1 positive, and then R2, this is for I2, right? Minus R2. You don't have an I3 here. R3. You don't have an I3, sorry. You don't have an I3 in that equation. So this becomes 0. Now you have like 2 volts here, right? And I told you anything that's not I1, I2, I3 should go to the other side. So this becomes minus V2 plus V1. So whatever the value is, just put it there. Minus V2 plus V1. So this is minus, so this is positive V1 minus V2. Okay, typically they will tell you what is the value of your battery. Let's say V1 is 5, V2 is 6. So you have values for this. Your resistors have values, right? The only thing that you don't have values for is your I1. So this is where you use your calculator and solve using this matrix. Okay. I don't know if you know how to use your calculator for matrices. Saya nak batuk. I am so sorry. Okay, so basically, you need to, okay, if you have your calculator, please try tekan mode until you find equation. Tekan mode 3 kali. 1, 2, 3. And then you see equation. Equation MAT, VCT, I don't know what that is. So equation is number 1. So press 1. And then since you have 3 unknowns, 1, 2, 3, you are finding out I1, I2, and I3. That gives you 3 unknowns, right? And then they ask you, what is A1? What is A2? What is A3? What is B1, B2, B3? And so on. So this guy is your A1, sorry, this whole line is your AX. Punya values, B, lepas A1 apa? Yeah, B. Okay, so here, this becomes your it's AX. So this is A1, A2, A3. This is your BX, B1, B2, B3. Dalam your equation, dia akan tanya what is your A1. So you put in 1. What is your B1? Put in 1. What is your C1? Put in your minus 1. What is your A2? Put in 0. What is your B2? What is your C2? What is your A3? But there's another term which is dx. So this is your d1, d2, d3. Okay, so d ni 0, d1 is 0, d2 is v2 punya value, d3 is v1 minus v2 punya value. Okay, nanti try lah dengan calculator. We will do an example. You can try that using your calculator. I mean, I will ask you to do it for me. So this is how you do it. Okay, so mode 3 times, and then press equation. So you press number 1, and then you put in your values. Okay, so remember there is A1, B1, C1, D1. There are 4 terms. It refers to your equation. So this is the first term, second term, third term, fourth term. Fourth term is over here. Walaupun dia equal to D1, but this is how the calculator uses it. It uses the matrix. Okay, moving on. Let's do an example. Okay, please try to use the calculator. Nanti saya akan suruh korang cari untuk saya. Okay. Consider the electrical circuit shown. What time is it? Okay. Write down the Kirchhoff's junction rule at junction C. So where is junction C? This is our junction C. You dah label siap-siap your I's. and they want you to write down the junction rule. The second one is write down the Kirchhoff's loop rule for loop A, B, C, F, A. A, B, C, F, A, going clockwise. Write the Kirchhoff's loop rule for loop C, D, E, F, C. C, D, E, F, C, clockwise. Calculate all currents I1, I2, and I3. Okay, so I'm going to assign because I'm not feeling well. So the first one I want to ask, who is here? Kau ramai juga ada hari ni walaupun korang balik college. Can I ask, is Danish here? Danish ada tak?
Yes, Doctor.
Ada eh? So Danish is number A. And then Haikal, oh Haikal hari tu dah panggil. Oh siapa lagi? Shakira. Shakira will be doing B. Shakira ada kan? And then Hikmah is doing C. Shakira dengan Hikmah ada tak?
Tak boleh tekan. Oh, ada doktor.
Okay, Hikmah ada. Shakira ada? Shakira, we have chats.
Rasanya Shakira
Okay.
dalam perjalanan.
Oh, okay. Okay, sekejap Divya. Sekejap saya baca awak punya chat. The other one, can I get Sofara? Kalau Shakira ada problem. Shakira on the way gimana? Sofara. Okay, and then to use the calculator, let's ask Aliana Umairah, saya panggil tak last week? Fakri ada tak Fakri? Is Fakri here? No, Fakri is not here. Okay, ada. So Fakri, you will use the calculator from the equations that your friend bagi nanti, okay? So Divya, saya sedang on the way.
Okay.
Okay, Shakira, no worries. Saya tak perasan nama awak dalam list. So Divya, about the signs for the voltage. For resistors, our module says negative for same direction but positive. They are the other way around in the slides, I think. Okay, yeah, you can, there's, macam nak cakap, there's no, macam nak cakap. Okay, so basically my way is like going through the loop and then positive if I see the positive, right? And then if I is the same direction as my loop, it becomes a positive as well. But in the textbook, it's the opposite code. I don't know. But if everything is the opposite, then everything still holds lah. So if I see a positive battery and I say this is a negative, and I see a current flowing through here and I say it's a negative, then everything is just the same. Sebab if I say A plus B plus C is equal to 0, I can also say minus A minus B minus C is equal to 0. Okay, it's the same thing. Faham tak? Okay. So benda ni it's just math, okay? So you choose the rule that you are most comfortable with. Follow that rule betul-betul. Jangan mix up with mine with the textbook, or you mix up the textbook with mine. Just pick one, stick to that one, okay? Because you will get the right answer if you follow the rules. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you choose. It will work.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay, you're welcome, Divya. I hope that makes sense. Doctor, how to figure out which way is going in or out of the junction. So here they already labeled the currents, right? So you already know I1 is going in, so positive, I2 is going in, positive, I3 is going out, positive. But what if they don't label your I's, right? So if I were to choose junction F and I say randomly, I want to say I1 is going in, I2 is going in, I3 is going in. I want to say that. I can. So my equation becomes I1 plus I2 plus I3 equals to a 0. You can do it. And then your answer will tell you if your direction is correct or not. This is if you label it yourself. Doesn't matter. Going in, going out, asalkan you reflect it correctly in your equation, then everything will hold. If they already label it for you, follow the label. Jangan pandai-pandai buat yang baru lah. Okay? So that's my tip for you.
That means, doctor, if towards the point, that means it's positive.
Towards the point, yep, correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, doctor.
All right. Is there any other question? Okay, tak ada. So let's start. I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes to do it. Fakri boleh tunggu ataupun you can try yourself if you know how to do it. I mean, if you are quick enough to do it. So 10 minutes, from now, 12:17. So let's meet 12:27 p.m. Yay, saya boleh berehat. Sorry for the screaming. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I will still be here. Okay. Just stop. Excuse me. Oops. Okay. Is everyone ready to discuss? Is Danish ready?
Yes, doctor.
Dah, okay. So what's your equation?
My equation is I1 plus I2 minus I3 equal to 0.
Okay. So this is the first one. So this is A. Okay, thank you, Danish. B is Sofara. Sofara dah ready ke?
Dah, doktor.
Okay, so the first loop. So what's your equation?
Positive V2
Positive V2. V2 yang mana V2 yang bawah?
I assume that yang bawah.
V2. Okay, this is V1. Okay, positive V2,
Negative V1
negative V1,
positive in bracket I1 times R1
times R1. This is R1. Okay.
negative bracket I2 times R2 equals to 0.
Equals to 0. So this is R2. Okay, thank you. So far minus positive. Okay, betul. So see Hikmah. Hikmah, are you ready?
Yes, doctor.
Alright.
Negative V2
Negative V2. Okay.
plus I2
Plus I2
times R2
times R2
plus I3
plus I3
times R3
times R3
equals to 0.
equals to 0. Okay, thank you, Hikmah. That was good. Thank you, Safara. Thank you, Danish. Let's see. Let's cross check their work. Okay. So here Danish said I1 is positive, I2 is positive, I3 is negative. I1 is moving towards the junction, like Divya said, or going into the junction. So it becomes a positive. And this guy is also going into the junction, positive. This guy is negative. So I1 positive, I2 positive, I3 negative. So this is the negative. Equals to a 0. Okay, so ini betul sepatutnya lah. And then B is the first loop. This is loop number 1. Okay, so here so Farah started from down here. So she moved from here. So she saw positive V2 first, and then she saw negative V1, and then she saw I1 times, was it I1? Yep, I1 times R1, and then she saw I2, but I2 was going in the opposite direction as her loop. So it's a negative I2 R2. So this is your negative, it's your negative. So betul. Okay, and then the second loop done by Hikmah. Hikmah started from up here. So she saw negative terminal of V2 first. So it's a negative V2. And then she saw I2, R2. I2 is in the same direction as her loop. So it's a positive. And then lalu lagi, she saw 100 ohms. And this guy has I3 moving in the same direction as the loop. So positive juga. So the only negative in Hikmah's equation is the V2. Equals to 0 lah. Okay, semua equals to 0. Okay, so Fakri, if I give you these three equations, how would you write your matrix? Fakri there?
Yes, doctor.
So how would you write?
For I1 first, right?
For I1.
I use 1.5. Wait macam nak cakap sekejap.
Sekejap, awak susun equation ni macam mana? Tu je, kita nak cakap pasal susun dulu.
Oh, dia punya formula tu
Awak tak susun awak terus kira?
Macam saya ingatkan guna calculator je, tak payah working stack kan. So saya macam saya guna calculator katakan je.
Okay, so kalau tengok equation ni, how would you rearrange everything? Let's just do it like spontaneously. So the first one.
The first one I terus bagi number boleh ke, Dok?
Boleh.
Untuk I1 tu saya buat negative 1.5 I. Kan R tu kita kira R dulu, lepas tu saya cari I kan kita tak tahu, jadi saya buat negative 1.5 I plus with 3 over 200.
Negative 1 point. Oh, kira manual 1.5 I. Okay. I1 ke I?
I1. I1, yes.
Plus.
Plus 3 over 200 plus 9 over 100.
Ni I1 juga?
Ini semua I1 lagi. Saya buat kurungan. Ajak macam mana? 9 over 100. Lepas tu minus 2. Sebab ada 2. 2. Lepas tu saya buat kurungan. 1.5 I.
Okay.
Minus 3 over 200.
Ni dalam kurungan lagi ke tak? Tak.
Dalam kurungan 3. No, I mean like 1.5 I minus 3 over 200 kurungan. Like that.
Okay. Okay. Lepas tu?
Okay, tu untuk first equation sebab dia macam kena simultaneous. So that was the first equation. Okay, the second equation is
Sekejap, this is equal to 0?
5 point.
5 point?
Wait. Yeah. I think it should be equal to I1. Like, yeah, I1.
Equal to I1. Okay, tak apa. Kita tengok. Lepas tu, 5 point?
5.5 I1 equal to 27 over 200.
Okay.
How do we get 27 over 200 is based on the previous calculation. Kalau kita solve kan kita akan dapat 27 over 200. Okay.
So from
then,
here.
Okay, then we will get I1 is equal to 0.025.
Okay.
Okay. Then for I2, we're using 1.5 times I1 minus
Times I1 minus
3 over 200 back. Okay, that the
3 over 100.
3 over 200.
200.
It should 3 over 200, not 300.
Oh, okay. 3 over 200 equals to?
That one equal to I2.
Equals to I2. Okay. So I1
Then
dah
we
tahu, substitute. Okay.
Yeah.
So I2 dapat?
Dapat 0.022.
Okay. And then I3 from here je lah kan? 0.25,
I3 just
0.022. Dapat I3 as?
I got 0.05.
0.05 ampere. Okay. So let's see if Fakri's answer is correct. I didn't do the manual way. So let's see if we can get it using the calculator. I mean, Fakri used the calculator, but I'm talking about the matrix. Okay, so I have this equation. Let me duplicate our working step. Duplicate. That was Fakri's approach. So let's try the matrix and see if we can get the same answer as Fakri. Okay. Saya nervous juga ni sebab saya salah tekan calculator. So let me, I need an assistant. Can I have Jaya as my assistant today to press the calculator? Is Jaya there or is Jaya like away? I don't have the list. So my matrix should be looking like this. 1. The I1 in here is R1. Terus letak bola. 1, R1 is 300. Okay, this is all I1. One, this is all I2. This is all going to be I3. I1, and then for the third equation, I1 is not there, so it's a 0. Okay, so I2 is a 1 over here, positive 1. I2 is a negative R2. R2 is 200. And then for the third equation, our I2 is R2 positive, so positive 200. And then for the first equation, our I3 is a negative 1. Our second equation is 0 because I3 is not there. And then for the third equation, our I3 is R3. R3 is which one? R3 is this guy, 100. And it's a positive. And then I need to move whatever that is not I1, I2, and I3 to the other side. So this is my other side. And it is just the V selalunya. So this guy is a 0. The first equation, there's no V, it's a 0. The second equation, my V's are minus V2. Bring it to the other side, like minus V2 plus V1. So V2 is minus 9 plus 12. Minus 9 plus 12 is 3. Positive 3. Minus 9 plus 12 positive. Okay, betul. And then the third equation, I have minus V2 over here. If I bring it to the other side, it's going to be a positive V2. So it's a positive 9. Okay, so now I'm going to use my calculator. Oh no, wait, Jaya is going to use his calculator. Is Jaya there? Jaya, are you there? So Jaya is not there. Let's see, who is here? Who is going to help me and solve the greatest mystery? Can we get Najwa? Rasanya jarang panggil Najwa. Is Najwa there? Najwa is not there.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Najwa, can you help me and use your calculator and find out if you get the answer? I mean, what's your answer lah, basically. So your calculator will say X, jawapan apa, Y, jawapan apa, Z, jawapan apa. So X is I1, Y is I2, Z is I3. Okay? So use your calculator, tell me what's the answer. And I will
Okay,
use.
doctor, wait a bit.
All right. So I'm going to do it myself as well. If you have your calculator, please try together so we know how to use the calculator. That sounds weird. Okay, 300 minus 200, 0, 3. A3 is a 0, B3 is a 200, 100.
Doktor,
Ah,
kenapa dekat 3 dengan 9 tu kita buat positif ya doktor?
sebab saya bawa ke sebelah sana, dia equal to,
Oh, doktor pindahkan.
saya pindahkan ke
Okay.
sebelah sana. Siapa yang nak buat manual, boleh buat manual eh. It should work either way.
Doctor, for calculating, we use unknown tree, right?
Betul. I know.
Okay, for the answer, X 0.02,
2.
Y 0.02, Doktor, do you want the long? Maksud saya kan dia puluhan panjang. So nak berapa tempat berpuluhan?
Bagi 4 lah.
Bagi 4 lah. Okay. Yang X 0.0245.
Okay.
Y 0.0218.
Okay.
Z 0.0464.
0464. 0464 eh? Okay.
Betul ke?
Saya dapat sama tapi kita tengok jawapan Fakri sama tak? Thank you
Okay.
Najwa. Jawapan Fakri dapat 0.025 for the I1. Okay, lebih kurang. I2 Fakri is 0.022. Okay, so I3 ini 0.022 betul, 0.025. I3 0.0464. Yang ni saya rasa lain sikit kot. Ke saya yang tak perasan mana jawapan dia? Okay, 0.46. Oh, okay, boleh lah. Fakri dah bundarkan. Okay, so Fakri dapat jawapan yang sama tapi dapat dalam keadaan yang bundar lah. Okay, so using the calculator you get like all the decimal places, which is fine. So either way it works. Okay, so good job everyone. I think you understand how to do it now. Now we have another example, and then this is our final example. Let's see the answer. What is the answer? I hope we are right. Yay, we are right. So we got it. Okay. So good job everyone. Moving on. So there's a thing called a voltage divider. Sekejap, saya nak kena kecilkan slide. So voltage divider or potential divider, and there is another term called current divider. So remember I told you when we have a circuit and we have a battery, but we have like 2 resistors or 3 resistors, the voltage is divided among them. And the division, so V1 plus V2 must be equal to the battery. This is what I told you, I remember. So jangan tipu saya cakap awak tak ingat because I remember saying that like 2-3 times in the class. So the voltage of the battery is divided between the resistors in the circuit. So V1, the potential across R1 is called V1 and the potential across R2 is called V2. And V1 plus V2 should be equal to V in or the V battery lah. V1 plus V2 is your V in, the total battery. Okay, so using the potential divider punya equation, okay, so you can say if you want to find out what is V1, you can use the ratio. So R1 over R1 plus R2 times the total will give you V1. If you want to find out what is the voltage at R2, use the ratio V2. Oh, tak nampak. It's just basically using ratio lah. Okay, so R2, R1 plus, ya Allah tak nampak juga. I am so sorry. Sekejap. Let's use it, let's write it over here. So V2 is R2 over R1 plus R2, which is the total resistance. I want to know what is the voltage at R2. So V2 is equal to R2 over the total resistance times the total battery. Okay, what is it? It is a ratio. If I rearrange this equation, V1 over V total equals to R1 over R total. It's a ratio. Okay, so the potential divider is based on ratio. If you are more comfortable remembering this equation rather than this guy, boleh. Or if you don't want to remember the potential divider and you want to use your instincts or like your loop rule or whatever that you've learned so far and you think you are okay with that, so you can. So potential divider ni macam add on, how do I say this? Add on knowledge lah. You don't have to have it to solve your circuit, but it is nice because it gives you a shortcut. Okay, so this is for potential divider. So V2 over V total is R2 over R total. So sama je. If I have 3 resistors, let's say I have R3 over here. I want to know what is V3 at that R3. Use the ratio. So V3 over V total, R3 over R total. then rearrange jadi macam equation ni. Okay, so it's easy. I think potential divider is easy. It's just a ratio. V over V total R over, sorry, it's R total. Sorry, tu macam buruk kat situ. That's why I'm like writing it over here. Tapi macam buruk juga, so macam pointless. But it's okay, R total. Okay, so that's your potential divider. Now we have another current divider. It's called current divider, but the ratio is like not the same as current divider. Sorry, current divider punya ratio is not the same as potential divider. It's different. Okay, so now let's take a look at this equation. If two or more resistors are in parallel, so R1, R2, R3 is in parallel. Rx is also in parallel with them. So these guys are all parallel together, right? So it's saying if R1, R2, R3 are in parallel, the current that enters the combination will be split between them in inverse proportion. Inverse proportion maksudnya the ratio is not proportional. Okay, dia terbalik lah. So nanti kita akan cakap pasal ni. According to Ohm's law, it follows that if the impedances have the same value, then the current is split equally. Okay, so putting aside those sentences, let's look at the equation. So if I want to know what is the current flowing through Ix, sorry, what is the current flowing through Rx, I am trying to find Ix, right? So here, instead of putting Rx over R total, I'm not putting Rx. I'm putting whatever that is in parallel behind me. I'm putting whatever that is parallel behind me. So this is RT. RT is 1 over RT is equal to 1 over R1, 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. This is RT. RT is the equivalent resistance of 3 parallel resistors. That's RT. It's not the total. RT is R1 plus R2 plus R3 in parallel. So instead of putting Rx over here, I'm putting RT. I'm putting whatever that is not Rx. I'm putting whatever that is not Rx over here over the total. So Rx plus RT. So here, RT kita tahu in parallel, but Rx, we know that Rx should be in parallel with RT, but here they are adding it terus. Kenapa? Okay, I need to check back on this one. Is it going to be like this? Rx plus 1 over RT? I don't know. Okay, let me check back on this one. But basically, the ratio is not the same as potential divider. Potential divider ni macam senang gila. Ratio yang linear, yang proportional. But current divider is like opposite, the inverse. Yeah. I'm trying to find the current through Rx, but what am I putting here? I'm putting RT, which is weird, over the total Rx plus RT. I need to check back on this one. Times the I that is going through RT. What is IT? IT is whatever that is not flowing through Ix. Sorry, not flowing through Rx. Okay, so RT dah pelik dah. IT pun pelik juga. So it's times with the IT. So if you don't want to remember this equation, it's fine. It's just like knowledge. You can use the loop rule and the, what do you call it? Junction rule to solve for your equations. Okay, you don't have to use this. But it's a shortcut lah, like I said before. Any questions? Dulu ada soalan? Ada? Do we have time to do another question? What time is it? Kenapa tiba-tiba tak tunjuk saya masa? Oh, sorry. What's wrong with my computer? Dan ni pun dia stop. Okay, jangan korang. Okay, can someone tell me what time is it? What time it is? I don't have my watch. What time is it?
It's 12:52.
12:52. Alah, dah sempat. Okay, I'm gonna continue next time lah. Okay, so this I will continue in your next class. These two examples, okay? And then we are done with chapter 18. And then masuk chapter 19. Okay, so take care everyone. Take care. Cuaca tak menentu, so take care of yourself. Drink a lot of water and jaga jarak. Okay, jangan berkumpul ramai-ramai walaupun dah balik college. Okay, so take care. Have your lunch and have a great rest of the day. I will see you on Friday. Tomorrow is lab, so I'm not going to see you. Okay, bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Doktor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank
Oh,
you,
semangat kan
Doktor.
dah balik college. Okay, you welcome Reza. Saya dengar 2 kali dah.
Thank you, Doktor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.